finally flannel weather in southern New Mexico. It's like 3 days before Thanksgiving or something. We finally got fall color and 50-60 degree weather. So fall is definitely astro weather for me, and astro season. I mean, I guess technically every season is astro season, but I definitely love fall and winter astro. There's a ton of great stuff in the night sky, and I'm gonna go over today some of my favorite lenses for astro for all different types of shots. And I'm gonna go over first, I'm gonna start with the lenses that I have and that I personally use, and they may or may not be the best or the best for you or whatever. And then I'm going to go into some other ones that I wish I had, and then maybe some suggested ones for other systems. You should note, if you're new to the channel, I personally shoot on Canon, and I shoot on the RF system, so I will be talking about Canon a lot. However, there are a few other lenses from other systems that I know are pretty decent for astro, so I will mention those at some point. But let's just get straight into it. So we'll start with the newest one, actually. Let's start with this guy. I was going to do this outside last night and get some actual astro images and some more data for my Andromeda project on my telescope. But of course, it's cloudy, you know, like 5 days a year here where I live. And last night was one of those nights because the universe knew I wanted to film a video. So we're doing this inside. This is the Canon RF 16mm f2.8, and I have talked about it in one of my last videos. So it's been pretty good so far. It's not the sharpest tool in the shed, and it's got a couple of little quirks and weird things, but I go over all of that in the video. The video I'm talking about, I made an actual video for how this does for specifically astrophotography. So if you want to see more on that, but these are the two images that I got with it so far on my first and only night out with this, because this is a pretty new lens. But I will say that I will be using this more for astro time lapses and b-roll and stuff like that. So I think it's going to help a lot. The great thing about that lens is, the best thing about it is the price and the size. I mean, you saw how small that was. I can fit that in my bag no matter what's in my bag. No matter how full my bag is, I can always make room for that thing. Like, it's tiny, and if not, I'll put it in my pocket. You know, so having something like that that's small and light and easy to take with you no matter what is the most beneficial thing to me. All right, let's see. Oh, okay, we'll go with the next budget-friendly and most popular. I think it's one of the most popular wide-angle options, and that is the Samyang or Rokinon. It's the same company, but this is the 14mm. This one is the RF version, and it's the 14mm, and it's the AF version, the autofocus version. So I got that again, mostly for astro and for video stuff, for like vlogging and whatnot. But I think my 16 is going to replace that, because the autofocus is native on the 16, and the 16 is much lighter. But that's a great lens. It does have some mustache distortion in the middle, but it's nothing that the profile can't fix decently, especially for astro stuff. Like, I wouldn't use that 14 for like architecture or city photography or something like that with straight lines, especially straight vertical lines. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about astro stuff. And for these astro stuff, especially like for the astro time lapses and the super wide astro stuff of like getting the whole Milky Way or doing whole sky panos, the 14 is absolutely great. It's really sharp, especially for the price. You just can't beat it. Oh, and that one, this the RF 14 that I have is weather sealed. That's a big deal to me personally. It might not matter to you. The 16 millimeter is not, and that really sucks. But the 14 is a great option, even when I shoot. And the great thing about the Samyang and the Rokinon for the 14 is that they have them for, I think, pretty much all the major mounts. You know, so they have the mount for the Sony and the Nikons, and they all do really well. When I shot on my Canon DSLRs, both crop body and full frame, we're talking like, you know, 10 years ago, and maybe even longer, I had the Rokinon 14 f2.8, and then the cinema version, the T3.1. Both of those, and those are completely manual and they're not weather sealed. But for Astro, they have some of the least amount of coma, and astrophotographers definitely enjoy a lens with minimal to no coma. Okay, let's stop down the millimeters a bit. Oh, actually, before this one, the lens that I'm filming with right now is the Canon 16 to 35 EF, the EF 16 to 35 f4. So I'm filming with that right now, but you know, a lot of people will naysay about shooting with an f4 for Astro. But I say shoot whatever the heck you have, because it's awesome and it's better to have some sort of shot of the night sky than not try it at all. So don't be one of those lame-o people who are obsessed with specs and theoreticals and numbers and all of that crap. Just get whatever lens you have. That's the most important bit. Get whatever lens you have. If you have an 18 to 55 kit lens, I don't care. Get out there. The stars are worth it. They're worth it to try. And a lot of this stuff can definitely be fixed in editing, and by shooting, you know, multiple shots and stacking and imaging and star trackers, which we're not going to get into any of that stuff. This is all about the lenses. But the point is, use whatever you have, learn to edit, learn the good techniques, and the lenses won't matter as much. They will always matter. But my whole point with that random tangent is that yes, I do shoot Astro with my 16 to 35 f4. I have some of my favorite images have come from this lens. It's wonderfully sharp. It deals with coma okay. It's not the best thing out there, but the minimal chromatic aberration, again, wonderfully sharp. It's an L series, so it's weather sealed, which again, I really need because I live in the desert and I travel to, and I just shoot in just horrible conditions all the time. But the 16 to 35 f4 is also, in terms of L lenses, which are Canon's highest quality lenses, it's rather affordable compared to the RF versions and compared to some of its big brothers like the 2.8 versions. So that's another great reason to consider that if you're looking for a mid-tier price range, but like optimal quality. The 16 to 35 f4 is great, and I love it because I can shoot 16, I can shoot 24, and I can shoot 35 if I want to, and I love all three of those ranges for astrophotography. So the next lens, moving up a little bit, that I have is the RF, whoa, that came right off there, is the RF 35 mil, and this, you know, I bought this, my wife and I, we bought this for like portraits, and for her, she does a lot of studio work and a lot of product photography and stuff, and this being a kind of semi-macro lens, we bought it for that kind of stuff, and it's wonderfully sharp, it's small, it's light, and then I started messing around with it for Astro, and I actually really am starting to love it for Astro. I made a full video dedicated to breaking the image quality down and all of the stuff regarding this lens, so you can check that out, the 35 millimeter for Astro. I got this recently. This is the 85 f1.2. So this is an interesting little lens. Ugh. It's very inexpensive, again, comparatively speaking. It's not what most people would think designed for an Astro lens. I bought it for, I bought it again for Brittany, for my wife, for doing more portrait stuff and studio stuff. However, I did also buy it with the thought for astrophotography, because in astrophotography, when you're talking about real astrophotography, like with telescopes and trackers and longer focal ranges and stuff, 85mm is considered extremely wide in that field of astrophotography. So I bought it as a wide field Astro lens so that I could piggyback it on the back of my telescope and get the longer range of my telescope, which is 1250mm, and then have that lens piggybacking on a camera on top of the telescope and use the telescope's own tracker and have that piggyback off of it, so I can get a wider field shot of the same thing that I'm shooting with my telescope. And I have high hopes for that. I haven't tested it yet. I do feel like I've done a lot with it that's not in astrophotography, and I feel like it's a pretty sharp lens. The autofocus is a bit crappy, but you don't have to use autofocus. You shouldn't use autofocus in astrophotography, so that doesn't matter. And then it just comes down to the image quality in the center of that lens is beautiful. So, and it's an f2, which is like medium fast, you know, faster than 2.8, but not fast as 1.2 or 1.8. So I'm going to be experimenting with that as soon, hopefully. I'm not going to commit to any dates for you guys, but hopefully soon, within the next month, I will be out with clear skies and my telescope and or a star tracker and some longer lenses. That will be one of them. Another one for the long lens and the tracker will be this. This is the 70-200 f4, and I will be using that again as a piggyback, because 200 f4 is beautiful, and to get wide field astro stuff, and it's very sharp. That lens is absolutely razor sharp. It's wonderful. It will cut your face off. It's a beautiful lens, and it's light. It's light enough to still to be able to piggyback a 200 onto my telescope. It's impressive that it's light enough that I can do that without stressing my telescope's motors. And if you just have a regular star tracker, then it's even better. It'll do that just great. And then for really, really long stuff that can potentially replace a telescope if you don't have a telescope, I would lastly say this guy. So this is my RF 800mm, and that's great for the moon, obviously. It's also decent for some astro stuff, but you need a tracker. So you will have to get some sort of motorized mount for that thing. And if you do, though, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised with the type of images that you'd be able to get that you would typically think of doing with a telescope. And it's a little wider than a telescope, but I think that's a sweet spot, because you'll be able to fit things like all of Andromeda in the frame very nicely. You can crop in a little bit, and I think that with a tracker, you can get a really decent tracker that can hold that thing for like $400. So that lens, the 800 plus a tracker, you're looking at, you know, $1,200, and that's a really good combo. And especially pairing that with any of the R cameras, they all have wonderful sensors. I've used it with my RP, my R6, and my R5. It's definitely the best for astro with the R6. So I'm looking forward to doing more tracker stuff with that too, and I think it'll be solid. All right, so those are the lenses that I have and that I shoot astro with. I have a few more lenses, but they're not lenses that I would really shoot Astro with, so I'm not even going to bother mentioning them. Let's talk about some lenses that I wish I had. The only two really that I would love to have for Astro, the 15 to 35 is amazing, very sharp, weather sealed, can take filters, that kind of stuff. I do use the night filter, the night sky filter. I use the breakthrough night sky filter. I have the links for that kind of stuff. But that's like a regular size lens, and it's an all-in-one lens for me. I want to get it to replace my 16 to 35, my EF1. But you know, it's heavy and it's really, really expensive. It's still like $2,300 or something. So I won't be doing that for a little while, but that is on my list to get. And when I do get it, rest assured, I will be doing lots and lots of Astro with it. The other lens that's one of my favorite focal ranges and lenses, no matter what system you're on, is going to be a 24 to 70. I had the Canon EF 24 to 70 L Mark II. I had all of them. I had the original L and the Mark II, and that lens was great. I got so many. 24 is probably my favorite wide angle Astro focal length, and I love it. I love it, especially for Milky Way stuff. That's probably my favorite Milky Way focal length. That and maybe the 35 actually. And it's decently fast, f2.8. That will definitely get the job done. If you are on a tripod with no tracker or anything like that, you're still going to be able to get really great single shot exposures with a 24 to 70 f2.8. Especially at the wider end at 24 and even at 35. And that's the beauty of like that. With the 24 to 70, you've got a 24, a 28, a 35, and a 50 all in one lens and all at f2.8. So it's great to be able to experiment with that and just change it up a little bit without having to change your lens. So again, the 2470, like for me right now, I sold my EF version and I'm kind of regretting it. I had the Mark II. Oh, that one's still here. I still have it. Actually, this is it. But the problem with this one, I dropped it in the ocean. So it went swimming with the fishies, and along with that camera, which was my 1DC, it's not happy. It's not happy at all. So it got too much salt corrosion, it couldn't be fixed, so it's a dead lens. But then to replace it, I bought the Tamron 24 to 70 f2.8 G2, and I love that lens. I think it might actually be sharper than the Canon L version. It's weather sealed. The Tamron for me also was image stabilized, which for doing handheld video a lot like I do, and all the other types of stuff, because I'm not just an astrophotographer, that was like my all-in-one go-to lens. That was the lens that I sold, and I'm really kicking myself for selling it, but I sold it to my best friend, so he's only a few hours away, so if I ever want it, I can go, borrow it. I would highly recommend that lens overall. And the beauty of that lens is that it's Tamron, and they make it in a bunch of different mounts, so you can get it for, you don't have to be Canon specific for that lens. That's a very handy thing. I'm going to throw out an honorable mention here real quick for, well, not so much an honorable mention, but a lot of people still have crop bodies. So if you have an APS-C sensor, a crop body like the Nikon D 5000 series or 5300 or whatever, or the Canon Rebels or 80D, 70D, 80D, 90D, 7D Mark II, any of those crop body cameras, the Tokina 11 to 16 millimeter f2.8 is absolutely wonderful for Astro and for crop bodies. So it is made specifically for crop bodies. So you can't put it on, it's not going to play with if you have a full frame, but if you have a crop body, that's probably one of my most recommended lenses. All right, so lastly, I'm going to mention my telescope for astrophotography. Any telescope will work. You just need the correct adapty bits, and that's the T adapter for my telescope was like $18, so not a big deal at all. The telescope that I have is the Celestron Nexstar 5SE, and they make that telescope from a 4-inch all the way to an 8-inch, I think, or maybe a 10-inch. So they have the range. So mine's on the smaller end, and it's very light, very travel friendly. And I say light and travel friendly, comparatively speaking. Again, in the telescope world, the Nexstar 5SE is a very travel friendly telescope. And as far as telescope setups with cameras and camera mounts and all of that stuff, that's really good. And then I can polar align that thing in 5 to 10 minutes also. So that's a relatively fast setup for astro stuff. And you're able to get stuff like this, which is some of my favorite stuff to do, just long form tracking, hundreds of shots stacked, hours of editing. But then you can get a lot of really great things. And I will be doing a lot more of this coming up this winter as well. I have some new targets that I want to try that I've never tried before, and I'm very excited about that. Let's talk about the giveaway real quick. I don't know if I mentioned, I'm going to give away $100 at the Lum Cube website. I do it every year with Lum Cube for their Black Friday sale, so their Black Friday sale is coming up. If you're watching this in the future, the Black Friday sale is already gone. This giveaway is already done. So huge thanks for sticking around this far. And that's it. I will see you in the next episode. But for those of you watching before the giveaway is done, let's talk about Lum Cube real quick. This is not sponsored. They're not paying me to say any of this. I've been working with Lum Cube for a long time. I have bought a lot of Lum Cube stuff, and I use them for all of my astro, like the wide night stuff, but I use them for so much more than astro. I use them for landscapes and portraits and action stuff, underwater stuff, and studio stuff, video. I use Lum Cubes so much. So they have their cubes, which are like this. This is their 2.0, and they have a ton of attachments, you know, like gels and all of that stuff. These things are bomb proof. This is waterproof. It's drop proof, very sturdy. I always keep some of these in my bag because I just never know when I'm going to want to light up a tree or stick something underwater or get stuck out at night, forget my headlamp, or who knows. I love them. Then we've got this guy. This is my favorite Lum Cube overall. Out of all of the products that Lum Cubes make, this is my favorite. This is their Panel Mini, and it's the best. It's small, it'll fit in your pocket, it can stand handheld because it's got the little bit wider bit, so it can hold itself up. It can go down to 1%, which for astrophotography is absolutely great. So I can put it on 1%. I can put it on 1%. I can do longer exposures. It'll last like all night. It'll last 8 hours or whatever on 1%. So it'll last really, really long time. And for astro, like that's a huge deal. And it's color temperature adjusted, so I can mess with the color. I can gel it if I want to. I can always keep it in my pocket or my bag. The Panel Mini is my absolute favorite. Another one is this guy. So this is the Panel Pro, and this is an RGB panel. So you can do a lot of cool stuff. So I can have this change color and put any color on the RGB spectrum. I love doing that. I love doing the creative stuff and having that option for my astro. It really provides just a awesome pop and splash of color, and I love it. I also, as you see, use it as a studio lens. There's just a million different things that you can use them for, and astro is one of them. It's my favorite. But I basically, that's like the lighting in general, you know, and having that broad range of lighting that I can have the panel mini, the Lum Cube 2.0, the Air. I can have all of those in my bag, and again, they're all collectively hardly taking up any space at all. So my lighting needs, wherever I'm out and about, if I'm vlogging or doing adventure photography or astro, I'm always covered, and I love having them. So huge shout out to Lum Cube for letting me give back to, I mean, this does nothing for me. I get nothing out of this at all. This is all for you guys. $100 will get you, even without the sales, it'll get you a panel mini. It'll get you 80% of the panel pro. It'll get you the Air or the Lum Cube 2.0. But with their sale, it'll probably get you a couple of those. So check out I have their link down below if you want to check it out. Even if you don't win and you need some good lights, I would highly recommend the Lum Cubes. They are amazing. I will announce the winner, I think on either Thursday or Friday. And then assuming the winner gets back to me, I will give you your $100 gift card to, online gift card to the Lum Cube store. So be on the lookout for that. Comment down below so that you have a chance to win. Follow me on Instagram at LightbendersVisuals, and follow Lum Cube on Instagram as well, at Lum Cube. And I will pick a winner at random and then get in touch with you. Very excited about that. All right, that's it. We're done here. That turned into a super long video as per my usual. And also as per my usual, it's second breakfast time. So I will see you in the next episode, hopefully when I'm out there with clear skies. If you have any questions about the astro stuff, the lenses or whatever, you know, a lens that you think that I didn't mention or whatever, leave those in the comments below and I will definitely answer them. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next episode.